And I don't know that we can agree on everything as lawyers, but we can agree that lawyers profess justice. That much I know we have in common. And Sharon Gerstmann was talking about it earlier this week, and she said the gold standard, we are the gold standard when it comes to talking about education, about the justice system, about protecting branches of government, about speaking about the justice system. And it's important for you to speak up and speak out. Bonnie Wolf, responded to a backlash to the Asian American community from rhetoric about COVID, and she needs our help. It's so important for the communities that are affected by some of these divisive statements to have the kinds of support that come from other corners. Just as Stanford, I think, who was the bar leader who spoke about it just a few minutes ago. It is so important. And it's so important with law enforcement issues to make your voice matter. And many of you spoke out in the wake of George Floyd's killing. You issued statements. You used terms like racial justice and structural racism and systemic inequality, words you probably had not used before. And for a lot of us who are minorities, that matters. Your voice matters when you talk about the fact that justice was lacking in policing on the streets of Minneapolis that day, and that justice is not delivered equally to all communities by the system that we represent. And there are a lot of false narratives right now. And it's important for you to make your voice matter. The idea that cities are burning in violent riots every day is a false narrative. There have been protests in Columbus, Ohio on many days in the last 6 months, but there have only been a couple of nights when those things turned violent or when there was property damage. So it's not true that that's going on every single night. And your voice matters with this election, and it's not a partisan thing. People vote by mail. It's legal, it's appropriate, it's safe, it's secure. The Secretary of State of the state of Ohio said that in elections between 2012 and 2016, with 14.4 million ballots cast, 0.002% were questioned or fraudulent. So, I understand that the chief antagonist here is Republican and votes by mail. But the fact, and he discourages others from doing so, but the fact is, it is a way to vote, and we shouldn't let anybody undermine confidence in our elections. You need to speak out and let people know it's safe to vote in whatever way they choose to do so, and we want them to vote in this election. And if the United States can't hold free and fair elections, God help the rest of the world. So, I don't know what the calculus was for undermining this upcoming election, but it's not going to serve anybody running for any office in any state or municipality in this country. And as bar leaders, it's our responsibility to speak up and speak out on those issues if we don't think that's right. Finally, your hands are the hands applied to bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice. And you do so when you speak out, when you write articles, but I need to make sure and urge you not to do so in a silo, not just to speak to your members, but to speak to your friends and your family and your neighbors and your colleagues and your elected officials, and frankly, anybody who will listen to a reasonable bar leader in service now. In your writing, in your op-ed pieces, in your letters to the editor, in your blogs, and you'll tell us in the breakouts what other ways there are to do that. Social media, I don't know that much about, but I'm sure your social media people on staff know, and your executive directors know how to get your voice out there. And when you talk to groups like Sertoma or fraternities or Kiwanis or sororities, or other groups, again, you know who the groups are, or you can think about who they might be. Faith leaders, business leaders, they all need to hear from us. They all need to hear from you. Your voice matters, and if you can recruit others to do the same in the circles in which you have influence, And believe me, if you're a bar president this year, this is the year they return your phone calls, okay? This year you have influence. And frankly, you have influence even when it isn't this year. But please invite collaboration. Please continue to speak out. Please continue to profess justice, because that's what we do.